Let's take a look at this term base then, where we have a standard term base that's being built using sub-languages or variants of the main language. So in this case I've got two variants of English, English United Kingdom and English United States, and two variants of Chinese. Many apologies for the Chinese, it's entirely machine translated. I don't know if it's good or not. It'll be an interesting test for anybody watching this to see how good the machine translation is at differentiating between simplified and traditional Chinese ways of writing that. But anyway, what I wanted to show is this is a term base that's been created just using the indexes. So I've got an English United Kingdom and a term, an English United States and a term, Chinese simplified and a term, and Chinese traditional and a term. And I've done that throughout the term base. So the structure of this particular term base is straightforward. Have a look at the definition. It's entry level, index level, term level, nothing else. No pick lists, no nothing, just the indexes. So what I want to do is to change this so it resembles, so that it provides the same information but using attributes for the language variants instead. And that way it gives you the opportunity to control the languages more. You can use QA in Studio and all kinds of things. I wrote an article once which you might want to have a look at. I'll just drag this over here so you can see. If you go to multifarious.filkin.com and do a search for Yanks or for Brits, you'll come across this article. And this article explains how you can use these attributes for forbidden terms and for QA checking and things like that. I'm not going to go into that in this particular video. Instead, I just want to show you how to get it all set up and just how you can work with it. So we're going to go through the conversion of this term base into something slightly different. So to do it, I'm going to use it. Apologies, I have no internet connection while I'm using this. Thank you, Deutsche Telekom. While I'm creating this, so my update fails every time I start it up. So what I'm going to do first of all is just convert the term base to something else. So to do that, I'm going to use the Glossary Converter. So in Studio, in my welcome page, welcome view, I've already added a number of applications down here, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is just start up the Glossary Converter, and this will allow me to convert the Multiterm Termbase into a spreadsheet where it's going to be easier for me to manipulate it. So I'm going to just take that out of there, drop it into there. I'm going to use the default settings. So you can see I'm going to ignore the entry field because I'm not bothered with those. I'm just going to take the languages. So I've got, let's make sure the languages are correct, English United Kingdom, English United States, simplified China, traditional Taiwan. Okay, and I'm going to say OK. I'm actually asked to say OK twice. I'm not quite sure why that's happening at the moment, but it's still giving me the conversion. So you can see now I've got a spreadsheet in there. I'll open up the Excel spreadsheet, and what I've got is a spreadsheet containing all of the terms exactly as I wanted them. So that's cool. So what I'm going to do, just because I don't like these little bits and bobs in here, I'm just going to tidy this up a little bit first. And what I'm going to do is to merge these together so that I have a single field for each one. I'll show you what I mean there. So I'm just going to call this English, and then I'm going to hit the plus symbol. So I'm going to say plus plate, and then I'm going to concatenate it. And to do that, I'm going to type the @ symbol. Then I'm going to open the quotes and hit the pipe symbol because I want to separate them with a pipe. You'll see what that looks like in a minute. And then close the quotes, then the @ symbol again, and then select the second one and hit the return key. And that joins the two words together with a pipe symbol in between it. And then all I need to do is copy that down to the bottom. So I'll come down the bottom here and I hold the shift key down, press the left mouse key, and then press Control D, Control Delta. And now that's copied the entire formula all the way down to the bottom. So it now looks like that. Then what I do is I press Control C to copy all of that information, and then I paste as values, and that removes the formula. So now what I've actually got is just the word separated by a pipe symbol. And then I can delete these two columns. I'll do it in a minute actually, in case I forget which way around they are. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the Chinese traditional, and this is just going to be Chinese. So it's a plus symbol, select the first one, the @ symbol, open quotes, pipe symbol, close quotes, @ symbol, second one, like that. And then I'll go down to the bottom, oops, make sure I'm still in the same cell. Come down to the bottom, hold the shift key down, left click, Control D, then Control C, paste, values. And now I've done the same thing with the Chinese as well. So you can see I've got no more formulas in there. This is just all about language. So the next thing I want to do is I want to add in this attribute field, because the idea is I still need Multiterm to know which is English UK and which is English US, and which is simplified Chinese and which is traditional Taiwan. So to do that, I'm going to add another column in the side here, like that. And here, I'll call it variant. You can call this whatever you like. It doesn't have to be variant. That's just what I'm going to call it. And my variants are going to be, I'm going to call it EN. So English GB, could use UK, it doesn't really matter. And a pipe symbol, EN US, like that. So what's that saying is that the one on the left matches the ENGB, the one on the right matches ENUS. And then I'm just going to do the same thing. So I go down to the bottom here, same thing as I did before, and copy all of those formulae down. So I hold the shift key down, press Control D, that's all of those. This is already text, it's not a formula, so I don't need to do any messing with the changes here. I'll just double click to make that a bit smaller. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the, I can delete these two columns now because I've done that. I've got them the right way around. Okay, now I go over and do the same thing with the Chinese. So the variant here is going to be Chinese, I'll call it ZH. I'm going to call it simplified. I know it's hands or something like that, but I'll never remember which one is which. So I'll call that simplified. And ZH. Traditional. With a pipe symbol. Like that. So the one on the left is simplified, the one on the right is traditional. And then I do the same thing again, I copy that down. Like that. Okay, and then I can delete these two. Okay, so I've rewritten my spreadsheet so that now I've got the English terms written together, just separated with a pipe symbol, and the Chinese terms, simplified and traditional, written together, separated by a pipe symbol, and I'm going to be able to identify which is which by this variant. Now, what I need to do next is set it up as something. So the first thing I'm going to do is just rename this, and I'm going to call this my variant Termbase, just so it's got a different name to the sublanguage Termbase. And I'll close that. And I'll delete my sublanguage Termbase spreadsheet so I don't get confused at all. So the next step is I open up the Glossary Converter again. What I need to do now is drag my variance Termbase into here. I'm just using the default settings. You see the English has been recognized as just English, the Chinese is just Chinese. So I'm not bothering with sublanguages this time. And the advantage this gives me is this same Termbase can be used with any variant of English and any variant of Chinese without me having to add additional sublanguages. I can use them in any project in Studio that is English something or Chinese something. The controls are via this variant. Now I need to decide where it sits. I'm actually going to leave it at term level, and that's because the different variant is going to apply to the term, so I want the attribute to sit at the term level, nowhere else on the term. I need to decide what the content is. I want it to be a pick list, so I'm going to right click, pick picklist, which is pick there, and then I click on here to edit the values. Now my values I've got none yet, but if I come back to my Termbase, my Excel spreadsheet, my variants are these: English GB, English US, and Chinese simplified and Chinese traditional. So if I just take that and copy it and put that into there like that, you can write whatever you want in here. It does not have to be what I've written here. This is just an example, and I'm going to take this one too. English, I suppose I'll put it beforehand, just so it's alphabetical. It doesn't have to be, I don't think. Okay, there we go. So there's my 4 values of the different types of languages. And away we go. So it's reorganizing the Termbase. Finish the conversion. So I'll close the Glossary Converter, and you can see now I've now got a variants Termbase in Windows Explorer. If I double click that, this time when it opens up, I've only got an English, I've only got a Chinese, but you can see the different ones are controlled by this attribute on each one. And the same thing applies for everything. So you can see I've got the simplified Chinese, traditional Chinese, the English spelling of acclimatise, the US spelling of acclimatise. If I look at the Termbase management and look at the definition, you can see now that the definition has changed slightly. This time I've got the variant on the bottom, and it's a pick list, as you can see from down here. Now I've got the Termbase sorted out. What I also want to do is I want to create an input model here. Now the reason for that is because when you translate in Studio, in order to make sure that the term is automatically added to the correct variant, so if you're using an English US to a Chinese simplified, for example, you can use an input model to make sure that the terms are always added just to the Chinese, to the English US and the Chinese simplified. To do that, it's pretty straightforward. Go to your Termbase management, click on the input models, and you'll see it'll be blank to begin with, and we'll create a new input model. We go ENGB to ZH simplified, click on next, pick a field, like the Chinese, and we'll add the English, and against the term, add the variant and the variant. We then set the default values. The default value for the Chinese, we said it was going to be simplified, and for the English we said would be English US for the first one. They're the default values. So we click on next, finish. So there's the first one, and you can actually see, if I go back to the Termbase, if we were to check the input model, if I click on add new term, you can see now it's only asking me for EN/US and Chinese simplified, as opposed to the default, which would ask me for just English and Chinese, and then I'd have to set the variant each time. So it's automatically making it easier for me to do things. So we want one for each of those, so it's easy enough to do. Come back over here, click on it, duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. So we'll just duplicate it 3 times. Take the first one here and edit it. And this one is going to be ENGB to ZH traditional. So this one should be traditional. This one is, oh, it was GB. I did that wrong. I did the other one wrong, I think. I called it GB and set it as US. So finish that one. So I better change the first one. Make sure this is correct. Yes, it should have been GB. But you noticed that when I did it. So now we edit the next one. And this time we do the same thing, but it's going to be ENUS US to Z8 simplified. So the variant is simplified, the variant, this time it is US, so that one is correct. And then we do the last one, edit it, next, and this one should be EN US to ZH traditional. So this should be traditional, and this should be US, which it is. Okay, so we created 4 different input profiles, and we'll be able to use those in Studio, which I shall show you now. So here's my Termbase. We created input models. There's 4 input models, and we close the Termbase. What we do now is come over to Studio, come over here, and we'll translate this. Whoops. We'll translate. Oh, sorry. I get used to using Untitled Commander, and I'm pressing F1 to remember the path, and it's opening up the help. That's not happen. That doesn't happen in Untitled Commander. Okay. I'm just going to open the file. So we'll translate a single document. So there's the file we're going to translate. And we'll go English GB to Chinese traditional, say. English GB to Chinese traditional. We'll say OK. No translation memories. We'll just open the file up. So it's a simple thing. There's the file open. We've got no Termbase open at the moment. So I go here to the Termbase settings, and I'm going to add my Termbase, and the one I want is this variant Termbase. Say OK. So that's opened the variance Termbase up, and you can see now I've got it in here. Here's my Termbase, and what you'll also see here is the input models. So because this is English GB to Chinese traditional or Taiwan traditional, I select English GB to traditional like that. And what that means is, if say for example I wanted to translate glossary, which I'm just going to paste in here. Again, apologies, this is just machine translation. So if I wanted to add these terms, I select the 2, and if I click on Quick Add New Term, it's immediately added as ENGB to Z8 traditional, because that's what I've said in the input model. So you get it spot on, it's exactly right. If I deleted that entry, if I did it again just to show you how this works, if I was to go ENUS to Z8 simplified, and this time I quick add new term, now I'm saving it as ENUS to Z8 simplified. So you can use the input models in order to make sure that the correct variant is saved with the correct language. Now you may ask, why should I bother doing that? Oh, sorry, one other thing to show you. You can see that on these other ones down here, I'm getting the terms shown in the term window, but I can't see which one is which. So what you would do is you click on the hit list settings, come down to select fields, and if you just select them all, because there's only the variants in there, and say OK and OK, you can see now that it tells you which one is which. So you know which is simplified and which is traditional. Now the benefit this gives you, or one of the benefits this gives you, first of all, you never need to worry about the sublanguages of your project, because all flavors of English and all flavors of Chinese will be acceptable for this. You just need to add the attributes if you start working with another one. And the other benefit is if you go to your project settings and you were to go to verification, for example, and look at the terminology verifier, you'll see within the Termbase I can now check for things using the term picklist. So I can look for forbidden values. So if I wanted to say that I should not be using on this project a simplified, I shouldn't be using any of these terms other than Z8 simplified, then I could check the rest, and then as I'm working, the QA checker is going to be picking it up and using it automatically. Now you cannot use this without using attributes and picklist fields. So that's another benefit that you get from using picklists and handling some languages in this way. If you want to know more about that, There's an article which I wrote, I think I mentioned that before at the beginning, which is this one. This explains in some detail how you would use those variants. There we go, where are we, down here somewhere? It goes through the process I just did a little bit as well, but explains how you can use them as forbidden values, and the video explains it as well. So I'd recommend that you take a look at that. But in the meantime, I hope that was helpful.